Well, hello, my friends. This is Dr. Randy Turpin. Welcome once again to Kingdom Conversations. I've entitled this episode today, I Am Grateful. It's a tribute to family and friends. This is episode number 99. And that means that next week is episode 100. And as we're preparing for episode 100, I want 100 to be a celebration time. And as part of the celebration, I'm going to give away one of my books, Living the Prophetic Life. If you want to put your name in for the drawing, for my giveaway of that book, please email me your name, your mailing address. Email that to mail@randyturpin.net. That's mail @randyturpin.net. Your name, your address, and I will put your name in the drawing to possibly get a copy of my book, Living the Prophetic Life. I'll ship it to you. That's part of the celebration of episode 100, which is next week. Another thing I'm doing in celebration of episode 100 is I'm going to have on this show, this podcast, Pastor Steve Gardner, who pastors Christ the Rock Church in Knoxville, Tennessee. He's going to be on here for episode 100. Why am I having Steve? It's because Steve was the person I interviewed for episodes 1 and 2 of Kingdom Conversations. That's right. We started this whole journey on Kingdom Conversations with Pastor Steve Gardner. Back then, episodes 1 and 2, we were talking about people that Steve had seen God raise from the dead through his own ministry. That was quite amazing. It's still archived. If you want to go check the archive, go back and listen to episode 1 and episode 2. Just amazing stories that Steve told about the times he's seen the dead raised. Jesus said that we could raise the dead in his name. So there's one man who's actually seen it happen through his own ministry. So I'm going to be connecting with Steve Gardner for episode 100. Well, at the time that I'm recording this is November, and I consider the whole month of November a month of Thanksgiving. How fitting it is that we would take time right now to express gratitude not only to God, but I'd like to take this month to express gratitude to people, the people who've made a difference in my life, and I want to encourage you to do the same. I want you to think of those relatives, family members that have made a difference in your life. Think of friends who've made a difference in your life. How about thinking of maybe even school teachers, professors, maybe business people? How about maybe even some people you've never met? Maybe people that have written books that you like to read frequently that are continuously making a difference in your life. Or maybe you watch them on television. Maybe they're ministers or leaders that have made a difference in the way that you think. Find ways this month to express gratitude to God, but also to those people. Don't you appreciate it when people come to you and say, hey, thank you for the difference you've made in my life? Well, I want to thank God for people like Bobby Clinton. Never met him face to face, but through things that he's written. Bobby Clinton, who used to teach at Fuller Theological Seminary, wrote materials that when I read it as a seminary student, it just made a world of difference in understanding how God was working in my life. And I'm thinking of people like Bill Johnson. I did actually attend Bill Johnson's church in Redding, California for a while. But Bill Johnson, the things he's written, the things he's taught has greatly influenced and shaped the way that I think. And also Chris Valentin, who's one of the pastors there in Redding at Bethel Church, and Steve Backlund, and Chris Overstreet, and I could go on, and Michael Brodeur, these people out there in Redding who were so influential in my formation in fairly recent years. But I could even reach further back. I thank God for in 1906 that my Aunt Laura Turpin, who received the fullness of the Spirit back in those days, became an influence for the entire Turpin family, introducing our entire family to Christianity. We became followers of Jesus primarily because of the influence of this woman who's now with Jesus. I actually had a chance to interview her when she was 99 years old. And she died at about the age of 101, I believe. If it wasn't for her, then my grandfather would not have been saved. His name was King Turpin. And so King Turpin and his wife, Bertha, I was really introduced to what a prayerful life looks like just by being under the influence of my grandfather and grandmother, King and Bertha Turpin. And of course, they raised my dad, Jim Turpin, who married Betty. My parents, Jim and Betty Turpin, thanks be to God for you. And I know they're listening to this. Thanks for raising me in the ways of the Lord. Thanks for teaching me not only in word, but by example, what it looks like to live for Jesus Christ. I thank God for the pastors who've made a difference in my life. My very first pastor was a female, Flossie Lester. And then later, we had people like Douglas Morgan who always showed an interest in me as a teenager. Friends, as we're thinking about people who've made a difference in their life, think of the difference that you can make in the lives of others. I'm thinking about Doug Morgan, how he went out of his way at times to come to see how I was doing. He'd see me and say, "How you doing, Randy?" Just checking up on me as a teenager. And it makes me want to be the same way, to seek out teenagers and young people and try to touch their lives in an encouraging way like that. How are you doing? How's it going? You'll be surprised at how just a simple, sincere question like that can make a difference. Then I think of Pastor James Wines. James Wines, he saw the call of God on my life. He was the one I went to when I really felt God was calling me and gave me such profound words of wisdom that have stuck with me for years regarding entry into ministry. And then I think of the pastors who gave me my first opportunities, like Dan Callahan opened the way for me one summer to serve as a youth pastor. And Frank Meadows did the same thing for a while and letting me serve one summer as a youth pastor during one of my college breaks. See, pastors make a difference in the lives of people. And I think of teachers, even teachers in secular school, in public school, like in the 8th grade. Mrs. Vermillion, my 8th grade teacher in English, Mrs. Vermillion, what she taught me about English and English composition and grammar was foundational to me understanding how to write. And now today I'm a writer, I'm an editor, I'm a publisher. And if it wasn't for Mrs. Vermillion, I would not have had some basic foundational things. Thank God for Mrs. Vermillion and Rita Montrose. Now, Rita Montrose might even be listening to this. She's a Facebook friend of mine. But Rita provided such a safe haven in high school. I love that woman. I had a chance to visit with her in her home just fairly recently, and I expressed to her my appreciation for the influence that she had on my life in my high school years. And I've got many childhood friends I just thank God for. I thank God for Mark Barnett. Mark Barnett is in heaven now. But what a good friend he was. And Greg Morgan, what a good friend. And Joey Vickers. Joey, if you are listening to this, listen. You were just maybe 2 or 3 years older than me during our growing up years and those teenage years. But I always looked up to you. And I would aspire to one day, I want to be like Joey Vickers someday. He was such a role model for the rest of us young men. And I just thank God for Joey Vickers. Then going off to college, I had professors who made a world of difference. I did not have one class with Charles Beach. But Dr. Charles Beach, though, I always looked up to him. And he was the founder of the ministry club that I was a part of. And he would often show up to encourage the members of that club in an evangelism. Oh, what an evangelist. He had a heart for reaching the unsaved like no one. And Leonard Albert, thank God for Leonard Albert. There's another one that showed a personal interest, an evangelist at heart. And professors like Jerome Boone. Now what he did, he gave me a love for teaching. Oh, how this man was so organized in his presentation of teaching. I loved it. And Dr. Arrington gave me such a love for research and the study of the Word of God. Thank God for Dr. French Arrington. And I think of leaders through the years, like mentors in ministry like Randy and Kathy Hammond and J.D. and Vicki Simmons and Mike and Trudy Chapman. I mean, these are people who've made a world of difference in my life because they took enough interest to want to mentor me. I looked up to them and they gave me an opportunity to serve. And I thank God for Mitch Corder. Mitch Corder has been one of the greatest encouragers in my whole life. Now, Mitch Corder and I are peers. We were students at the same time at Lee College. But I also esteem him highly as a mentor and as a leader that I greatly respect. And I just want to say to Mitch Corder, thank you, sir. You are a door opener. You are a people connector. You've helped me to get connected with people through the years. People like Tom Jones. Thank God for Tom Jones and for Randy Clark and Bishop Wayne Doherty. Thank you for your leadership right now in the state of Tennessee where I am now serving as pastor. Oh, and I have such friends that I consider lifetime friends. Thank God for Arthur and Sandy Richardson and Bill and Letty Tucci, who were the founders of the Wyndham Church of God. Now, when I talk about Wyndham Church of God and Royal Ridge Church of God there in Maine, those two churches together, when we served there in that area, in those two churches, we regard that as the golden era of our ministry. And for the friends that we made there, Mike and Sally Timmons, and Roger and Teresa Timmons, and Dave and Trish Harriman. And I would be totally missing it here if I did not mention Ron and Polly Nevers. What friends they are. And others that we connected with during that same period of our life, like Tom Hazel and Dave and Mickey Earl. What friends you've been. And Andrew Earl, I tell you, you and your wife Whitney have been such great partners in ministry. And in those years we had other friends, like I'm thinking of Bernie and Julie Tejanera, who we've labored together with, who were such incredible partners in ministry, not only in Wyndham, but also in a short time there at Royal Ridge Church of God. Rich and Linda Brink, I consider Rich my revival buddy. He and I used to travel to the Toronto revival together. Oh, there's so many churches. The Princeton Church of God there in Princeton, West Virginia, and North Cleveland Church of God in Cleveland, Tennessee, and Royal Ridge Church of God in Scarborough, and Solid Rock Church of God in Minnesota, and City Church in Chattanooga, and the Hopewell Church of God in Cleveland, Tennessee, and I know I'm missing some folks here, Oleander Avenue Church of God, and the Princeton Church of God in North Carolina, and all of these congregations have meant so much to us, and especially the church I'm pastoring at right now, everyone in Cornerstone Church of God. I love you. I thank God for you. Every one of you church members I could name. Oh, but there's just so many folks. Rick Kendall. Oh, I hope you're listening to this. You were such a friend to me in Florida. Friends, does this sound like the closing credits on a movie? That's really my intent here, is give you like the closing credits. But listen, I don't believe this is the closing of my life. Hopefully I'm about the midway point in my life. That means I'm going to live to be about 122 years old, I guess. But I just think that I don't want to wait until death, the point of death, that I'm at the death's doorway to look back and see the people that I should be giving thanks for. I'm giving credit to all of you now. And the reason I'm doing this is that all of my listeners might do the same thing. Who are the people that have made a difference in your life? Will you take time here in the month of November to express your love and your appreciation for them? People like Jay and Michelle Pepin and Tom and Mary Fultz and Lynn and Patrice Curtis and Chuck and Claudia Merrill and Dale Kaiser, those people in Minnesota. What a golden era that was. Thinking of people like the Randall family up there that our kids became friends with. We were greatly blessed and enriched during our time there in Minnesota. I so thank God for the doors that Dr. Steve Land opened for me to serve as a teacher and as a leader at the Pentecostal Theological Seminary. At the time it was called the Church of God Theological Seminary in Cleveland, Tennessee. In 2005, it was Dr. Steve Land together with Dr. James Bowers and Dr. Milton Carter that opened the way for me to come and serve there. And also, I'll tell you, Dr. Anthony Lombard, you were a great encourager to me in those days. And Jackie and Cheryl Johns. Jackie, if it wasn't for you, I don't think I'd even dared step through that door to even serve in that community. And Dr. Song-Yel Han and Dr. Oliver McMahon. These are people that opened doors for me and gave me opportunities. And I thank God for them. Richard and Paige Kepler and Michelle Wynn, who labored together with me there at Royal Ridge. How I appreciate you folks. I consider you lifetime friends. Dr. Rod Parsley. Dr. Parsley is the one that opened the door for me to serve as the president of Valor Christian College in Columbus, Ohio. I'm eternally grateful to that man and to his family for the opportunity and love and blessings that family has bestowed upon our household. Dr. Jimmy Dupree, what a blessing you are. You were part of the opening that door as well. If it were not for you, it wouldn't have happened at all. And I've got lifetime friends. Leland Smelser, you're a lifetime friend. Dennis DuPont, Barry Eaton, Tim Richardson. And of course, I thank God for my own immediate family. I thank God for my wife, Carrie. I thank God for my 5 children, my 5 wonderful children, every one of you, of my children, my 4 daughters and my son. I'm not naming them for security reasons. I'm not giving their names here. How I wish I could call out your names. I feel so enriched. I feel so blessed to have you as my children. And my son-in-law, married to my oldest daughter. I thank God for you. And I thank God for the 4 grandchildren that you've given us. Now, friends, I hope I haven't bored you with my list. And that's just a partial list. And I'm certainly going to think of somebody that I've overlooked. I know I will. Friends, take time. Take time to honor those to whom honor is due. Please take time to do that. When you honor others, it opens up a kind of a conduit for an exchange. When you honor someone, you recognize their value. And when you recognize someone's value, you increase the likelihood that you're going to gain something from that connection. And you also increase the likelihood that you're going to be able to bless that person in some way when you honor them. It's a two-way street. When we honor people, we bless them, they bless us. And what a blessing it is to have people in their life. Now, you're listening to a guy right now at one time I thought I didn't even like to be around people. I was such an introvert. Thankfully, the Lord brought me out of that and brought me into a greater appreciation of the people that He's brought into my life. And God bless you as you set your gaze toward blessing and honoring the people that have made a difference in your life. Thank you for taking the time to endure the list that I've gone through, but many of you are on this list, and how I thank God for you. Thank you for coming on to Kingdom Conversations here today. In episode 100, I'm going to be with Steve Gardner. We're going to talk about what God is doing in Knoxville. We're just going to let Steve talk about what's on his heart. What is the Lord speaking to the church today? And we're going to hear from Steve next week. God bless you.